The Dowser Dualies FF has to be one of, if not the most underrated weapon in Splatoon 3. It came out 2 months ago when the 2024 Fresh season dropped, and there seemed to be a decent amount of hype for it initially. But just a few days after its launch, people just seemed to forget about this weapon. People stopped using it, and even stopped talking about it. You could say the same about the other new main weapon that launched this season, the Recycled Brella, but the difference is that that weapon is currently so bad that people do bring it up just for the sake of making fun of it. The Dowser Dualies are definitely a better weapon, but not good enough for most people to really have any sort of relevance. But my goal here is to try and change that, as it's quickly become one of my favorite weapons. Really quickly, if you guys are new here, my name's Chase, and I make a lot of dually content. If you like what you see and want me to make even more Dowser Dualie related videos, be sure to hit like and consider subscribing. So let's start with why people don't like this weapon. The Dowser Dualies are a very unique type of dually. It's not really like anything that we're used to. It's sort of like the Squeezer of dualies, except it's weaker and generally kind of slower. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to argue that Dowser Dualies are better than Squeezer in this video, cause it's definitely not. Back to my point though, I think people are just used to the generally aggressive playstyle of the other 5 dualies, so when people tried out the Dowsers and realized that it's a bit of a different playstyle, it was sort of an instant turnoff. By the way, quick side note, Dowsers can be played aggressively if desired. In fact, a lot of Japanese players run a comeback QR build. Now, you could make the argument of, well, if you want to be aggro, just use one of the other dualies. And sure, that's fair. I do think aggressive Dowsers have a niche on maps that benefit longer ranged weapons though. Playstyle aside, I've heard a lot of people say that the main weapon is just too slow for them. It doesn't move super fast in its spread mode, and the single dodge roll can feel clunky and hindering. Again, totally fair, slower weapons aren't for everyone. I will say this though, if the strafe speed is an issue for you, use run speed. I mentioned this in my Dowser gear guide video, which if you haven't seen, you should totally go check out by the way, where I say that run speed is one of the best abilities you can run on this weapon. It stacks super well. One main is the sweet spot, but you can run more if you really dig the fast movement. Oh, and about the singular dodge roll, trust me, I too thought this thing was trash when I was trying it out for the first few hours. But I promise, if you just give it some time, you get used to the single dodge roll and learn how to use it effectively. Seriously, after just about a day of using the weapon, I realized that the single dodge roll isn't even much of a hindrance because its turret mode is absolutely bonkers. This is what I believe to be the most underrated aspect of the whole weapon, actually. A lot of people just seem to focus on the slow spread mode and the singular dodge roll, but people don't pay attention to how crazy the turret mode truly is. The fire rate and accuracy nearly match the Dapple dualies, except the Dowser turret mode actually has decent range. Yeah, it's less range than the spread mode, but it's not bad. It outranges the Tetra dualies still, so I don't really get why people like to complain about the range. Of course, there's a lot of people who will make a fuss about the ink consumption of the turret mode, which I can understand a bit more. If you guys saw my how to use Dowser Dualies guide, which again, be sure to check out if you haven't seen it yet, I really emphasize the fact that this weapon doesn't dodge roll a lot, so its poor turret consumption won't come into play too much. However, since making that video, I myself have learned that the Dowsers can be played more aggressively with its turret mode, which is how a lot of Japanese players use the weapon, like I mentioned earlier. And believe it or not, even with this more aggressive playstyle, the poor ink consumption really isn't much of a hindrance if you're just mindful of your ink tank, which most experienced players are. If you're a less experienced player, or you just consider yourself to be lower level, then just run some ink saver main if you find yourself struggling. There's no harm in doing that at lower level play. My overall point here though is that Dowser Dualie ink consumption is not as bad as people make it out to be, and there's a reason that the good players who use it don't need to run any ink management perks. Also remember that the weapon has Killer Whale, which can act as a quick free ink refill, and give you a second dodge roll, which can get you out of more situations than you might think. I've personally been using a comeback QR build recently with this weapon, and yeah, I have next to no issues with the ink tank while playing aggro. It might take some getting used to, but the same can be said for a lot of other guns in this game. Speaking of the kit, I don't want to spend too long on this since I mentioned it in previous videos already, but the kit is not bad. I will die on this hill. Killer Whale is probably one of the better specials Dowsers could have gotten, and while Ink Mine isn't great, the same can be said for like 85% of the weapons in this game. Nearly everything has either a suboptimal special or sub-weapon. And I know I'm being redundant, but Ink Mines can be helpful if you just place them strategically and don't forget that you have them. Remember that Ink Mines aren't just a defensive sub, they can be used aggressively as well and help combo with your main weapon. Obviously, the range of the spread mode is ridiculous. It outranges nearly every other midline, including the Nautilus and Squiffer. I never thought the day would come where we would say that a dually outranges the Nautilus and Squiffer, but here we are. Yes, its fire rate is slow and the shots aren't super accurate, but 1, you outrange a ton of other weapons, so if you're spacing yourself well, this won't matter much. 2, the bullet hitboxes are quite large, so even though it's inaccurate, your shots are still likely to hit. And 3, if you do find yourself missing all of your shots on an opponent who's trying to rush you, then just quickly dodge roll and get access to your handy dandy lethal turret mode. The weapon has an answer to almost any situation, which is really what I'm trying to say in this video. People are so quick to just call the weapon slow and bad, but no one really seems to consider how many positives the weapon actually has. Am I trying to argue that the Dowser dualies are top tier? No. Am I trying to argue that they're the best dually? No. Although I definitely don't think they're the worst. But what I am trying to argue is that people need to give this weapon more of a chance. I think the weapon in its current form is already quite good, but we have a lot to look forward to. We should be getting the custom Dowser dualies soon, which will hopefully have a better kit. I'm personally hoping for Inkjet and something like Fizzy or Burst Bomb. I also believe that the weapon will receive some kind of buff soon, because, as I made very clear in this video, not a lot of people use this weapon. Plus, Nintendo seems to always give the new main weapon some kind of buff, regardless of its current state. In fact, every new main weapon has received at least one buff up to this point, so I think it's safe to assume that both the Dowser dualies and Recycled Brella will get similar treatment. If you guys watch this whole video and still don't believe me when I say that the Dowser dualies are good, then let me tell you that I saw Pro Chara also saying that Dowsers were good on his stream the other day. I know he's definitely a more credible source than I am, so if this video wasn't enough to convince you, you gotta believe Chara at least.